Welcome to the Art Lady channel. Today we're going to be painting a Florida sunset, and we're going to be painting this picture of the Florida cypress along the St. Johns River, kind of like I call it sometimes an Everglade picture. Here's some Florida cypress trees right here, where they have these little knees sticking up. So we'll stick in some of the little knees in the edges and the shores of the St. Johns River. It's kind of in the style of the Florida highwaymen. So if you want to look at Florida highwaymen paintings and get an idea from that, but mainly we're going to focus on these bright, gorgeous Florida sunsets. So you can see here, this is actually a pastel that I did, but we've got a lot of gorgeous bright colors. So you can use your imagination. Here's one. This is more in the style of a Florida highwayman here. It's kind of a controlled kind of, I call it a prescription painting, where everything is, this is how you paint the grass, this is how you paint the tree, directed painting. But it's, we got the bright Florida sunset skies. This is more Florida highwayman style, where it's blended, kind of like a bra style. But we're going to do our sky. So this is a sky example that you might want to do, yellows to purples. Or here is a photograph of just a gorgeous bright sunset with some magentas as it hits the horizon line. So it's up to you what colors you want in your sunset. So you can be imaginative. Here I have a little bit of blues, but if you're doing blues, you want to be real careful that you're separating them from your yellows. I'll reproduce one similar to this, but I'll end more of a magenta-y color, I think, as I come down, just because I don't have my blue palette here with me. But I'm going to show you what we're using. We're using some Jack Richardson temper cakes. These are very inexpensive. They have, tons of colors now. Here's a palette that I made up of just sunset colors. So these are the colors I'm going to be using. I'm also going to add a little bit of that magenta in my palette. And then I do have the Alpha Biggie cakes. These are a little bit more money than the Jack Richardson, but these have a creamier consistency. They're a little bit easier for the kids to use. Well, actually, they're almost double the price of the other tempers. But I mean, I prefer these. These are gorgeous. These do not last in my classroom as long as the other temper cakes, just because they're softer. But they still last pretty much a school year, whole school year. These last, I mean, beyond a school year, and when we paint almost every day with them. So this is a very good value here. They're around $1 each. The round temper cakes. But go ahead. What I'm going to do is I'm using some heavier paper here, because we're going to be adding different layers to this. So the heaviest paper you can find, this is actually a watercolor painting paper, just a very inexpensive one. But I'm going to start off, now imagine we're going to be doing some beautiful colors. So you can start off with pink, you can start off with a red, you can start off with a magenta if you'd like. I'm going to actually start off with my magenta, and I'm just going to barely touch my magenta and give a little bit here. And then I'm going to treat these almost like a watercolor, adding water and blending out. Now I want a little bit more brighter sky here, so I'm going to go ahead and add a darker edge to the top. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash my brush and just use pure water and blend this out. And do you see how these tempers almost act like watercolor? They're kind of cool. I love using them for the kids. Now if you want to hit some of this deeper red, you can even put a little bit deeper red in here. I love using this for my elementary kids because they last such a long time. When I use those skinny pans, now I'm using pure water along the edge here and just pulling it down. Like I was saying, when I use those skinny pans with my kids, what happens is they last about a week. And so I have to refill them and refill them. So this is a lot easier. So I have my bright sky coming in, and I like the way the water's blending in. Now, if your paper is really thin, like copy paper, you're not going to get a lot of this bleeding color and blending like this. You're just going to sog that. That's why I say try and get some kind of hard paper here. And if you are using copy paper, thin paper at home, don't put as much water on. Just do it very lightly. You might want to mix your color with a little bit of white if you're doing thin paper. This is actually even starting to curl here. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some orange in. I'm doing kind of a yellowy orange color, and I'm gonna stick my orange on this side so I have streaks of gorgeous sunset. And notice I'm not touching this quite yet. So I'm gonna do a little streak of orange on this side. Now I'm washing my brush completely, and I'm just using water, and I'm bringing it together with the water. Now you can adjust it, put a little bit more, brighter. So I'm going into my orange here and adding a little bit of pure orange here. Wash that brush and then pull this in. And then the last color I'm going to do is going to be, oh, I bumped that. The last color I'm going to do is going to be a yellow. And I'm going to wash my brush real good. And then I'm going to go into the yellow. And I'm going to blend that out. And that creates that yellowy yellow orange. Okay. And then I'm adding water right into here. Now with my kids, we get about this far, and then we let this dry, and then we work on our bottom. I'm gonna now put a little water in. This is like day 2 for a classroom situation for kids. So I would have them just wet the bottom here so I can blend in these colors a little bit. And we were using the tempera cakes. So you can do watercolor, or if you're working with kids on a budget, these tempera cakes work good for me in the classroom situation. But at home, actually, you can even use acrylic paint for this, anything. But I'm just going to wet this a little bit back and forth so I can apply my colors. And what I want to create is a land line in the back. So I'm going to be using some a light brown color just to come across. And you can decide like a third of it. You can even do a half. Depends on how much water at the bottom you want. I'm going to go up a little bit higher than a third here. And I'm just going to draw horizontally across my page. Now if you want to mark up and do a little line, estimate, mark up, and then connect your lines, that's up to you. But then look and see how your line is. And I work it light just in case I make a mistake. Now I'm going to add a little bit darker value here. And this is like the tree line across the river or in the Everglades. You'll see a little bit of water, then you'll see bushes and tree line. So I'm going to go ahead and do that very thin there. And now I'm going to work up my land directly above the tree line or the water line here. So I'm just going to do a diagonal line. And I always work real light to dark. I'm going to do a diagonal line up and then give a little land, just like that. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the same on the other side real quick. Just a little land line and come down to tiny. And then what I'm going to add is a little bit of blue. This is just a medium value blue. Let me show you what I'm using. And what's going to happen is it's going to turn it a darker color. I stay away from black because black is just too powerful. It's going to ruin everything. So I teach my students to stay away from that color. And I'm layering these colors. See how it almost looks black as soon as you apply it on top? And I'm layering these colors here, just light washes of this paint. And then I'm going to put a little bit of dark green. Here's my dark green color. That's pretty much a true green right in here. Swirl it in and lay that on top too. with this, I'm kind of hitting the edge and then just kind of bringing it down a little bit. And this gives just some tonal values. You're seeing all these different colors through here. Because in nature, it's not just one dark area of color. So now I'm coming back with some green. And like I said, these temperas are very similar to a watercolor effect. And I really like to use them with my kids. They're easy for them and very inexpensive. Okay, so now I have a really good color for the land area. So that's great. I'm gonna work up some of this down here as well. So I'm just gonna do, this will be water in the middle, and then this will be the foreground plant area here. The edge of the river, or Everglades, however you wanna make it, whatever kind of picture you wanna make. So I'm giving the green base coat. As it comes closer to us, things are gonna get lighter in value and brighter. This will appear really, really, really dark back here. That's why I did a lot of dark over there. And I'm gonna add some more green in here. I'll hit some brown too. Brown in this corner, because this will kind of fade in. And on the edge, oh, you can't see that. Let me slide this up. Brown in this corner and on the edge. Washing and cleaning my brush completely. I'm just gonna kind of blend that in. And then I'm gonna add a little bit more brighter green up in here. But I'm not doing the blue. That blue just makes it darker there. All right, and I'm gonna let that dry for a second. Now I'm gonna work up some things up in here. Now you can do the bushes. I'm gonna start with my green. You can do dabs of bushes here, and I'm just dabbing the color here. You can do your palm trees, or you can do your dab, 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 dab. Your cypress right on top. Now I'm gonna get some blue. I'm going for a darker value blue here. Dab in some here too. Now if you want to do your cypress trees, I'm just taking my dirty brush, went in, and I start at the top. These I can do a real thick, tall forest of this. So I'm going to do, starting at the top or mid-top, I'm going to just come down, and I'm going right to the water line. And I'm going to get a little bit of blue on my brush as well. Straight down to the water line. And then I'm going to add another one on this side. So what I've done is I've mixed some brown and blue together. In the foreground here, I'm going to have it come right straight down. Skipping a space, right straight down. Now with these cypress trees branch out. I can come in a branch. Now, as they come down, they're getting thicker as they hit the water. It's kind of almost a cone here. I'm going to end it here. Oops. And then this is going to get, I need some more blue, brown in here. So the two colors I'm using, let me show you here, are those two as I'm working up my browns. It almost creates a gray. I don't want that to be so brownish. That's real bright brown. So I'm taking my blue and hitting on top. It almost forms your silhouettes. Now I'm going to branch out. And I want some cypress trees on this side too. And the river's edge, you get a lot of, oh darn, I wanted to do some of that sunset over there. Let me wait on that. I'm going to give you a branch over here. And a little bit of cypress knee is just a, like this, old and gnarly. Dab using the tip of that brush, and then they come up hits the water at a straight line here. I did want to get a little bit of reflection in. So I'm going to take some of this bluey gray, and this is going to be a little bit of reflection in this water here. So a line, very watered. This is a reflection of this land here in the water. Water, it's like muddied. And then I can get, I want a little bit of this bright sky. Oops, this is muddied. Because where this hits the land, there's dark reflection. I want to get some of that bright sky in the water too here. And now I'm adding water, just water to blend this in. I'm going to need to come back with some more dark in here. Always, artists are constantly just checking and figuring out, assessing what looks good, what needs to be fixed. This is where you have a little bit of the darker right in here, in that water. And this actually looks very dark, almost black in real life, this muddied. So I'm going to go with my blue. I want that pretty dark at that shoreline, right in here. And then I'm going to let that dry. I can hit this edge a little bit, blend it in. I don't want to bring it down where it's hitting my yellow though. That's going to mess up my... Yeah, I guess... Ooh, there's a mistake. If you make a mistake, paper towel it, then pure water. I thought my brush was clean. Paper towel it, patting it in a clean area, and it'll pull it up. See, I can even lighten some of this. If I don't like it, let's lighten it a little. Then I can fix it. It was a little bit too muddied, I thought. I wanted it to be a little bit brighter, like those Florida highwaymen. Yeah, as an artist, you can easily change what really looks in nature. Yeah, I want it a little bit brighter. More sunsetty color. And we'll put a little bit of orange down in here too. Just a little bit of orange. On the shore. And as this paint dries, this is going to get a little bit lighter. There. And now what I'm going to do is more my cypress trees here. And I'm going to work up some branches. Getting more of this tempera. Blue, brown. I'm just adding some lines for branches. And I do want more of the cypress on this side. Now that I've finished the water, I'll do another cypress coming down here. And this one's going to go right off the page. So I start it with my brown, and then it branches out. And I'm going to work up a knee. These knees are in the ground, and then the cypress grow in the water and next to the water. And they really sprawl out like this on the ends. And they grow slow. They're a slow growing tree, and they're a real hard tree. They have to be. Now I'm adding little streaks of, let me bring this up so you can see. I'm adding some streaks in here of the blue. Mix it in with that brown. Now I'm going to branch out. I'm going to make it not so straight. Then this branch will come over this way, more like natural. And then I have a branch this way. Come down. And then this gradually tapers. This will be a real old one. I forget the dimensions, but I think they grow like a 1/4 inch a year. It's pretty small, percentage-wise. Let me add some more brown on top here. And I kind of streak it so that it looks like the grooves of the tree. They grow really, really, really slow. Let's get some more. I'm gonna put some shadow on this. Now I've mixed my brown with the blue, so I'm gonna just dab with some blue here to give some shadow on these knees, darken up the knees. And then I'm putting in some more knees here. I might need to get a skinnier brush. Yeah, let me get a skinnier brush. The knees are kind of like knobby, and they have little bumpies like this. They're not super smooth, but not highly bumpy, just kind of irregular growths. And they vary in height, and group them. Let me get some more brown on them now, kind of knobby. There. I'll go take some live footage of these little knobby knees for you in the wilderness. I'm going to go to the edge of the river where I live and show you. And then they grow in the water too, like that. And the water's edge. I'll get a smaller one back here. So it's not like a perfect finger shape sticking up straight. It's kind of irregular edging. And there's the cypress trees. Now when you get your branches, if you want to add some more to the canopy over here, you can branch out. And of course they're filled with, you know, leaves, and then I'll show you the Spanish moss. I'm going to give you some. I do want a little bit of water movement in here. Oh, and I do want some grassy junk on the edge. A little bit of shore plants. So I'm taking some of this green, and my brush is kind of dirty, you can see how and you can just draw and flick up some. And I'm just kind of flicking the brush. Let me bring it up so you can see it better. For the bottom, starting on the edge, just kind of flick up and crisscross. And I look up, I took some Japanese classes on sumi painting, and this helps with the grass areas. There's specific formulas on how to do this. To the right is when you form your grass, the way you curve it. And I'm using these browns, the same brown and greens. To the right, of course this isn't with the Japanese brush, but look to the left, and you flick this, and it gives a natural formation of grasses. And I'm doing lots of brown and green based. And you overlap and you crisscross, and that way you get beautiful strokes that look natural, not just grass in a straight row. And then of course you can add the lighter values down in here too on your shore. We'll just kind of flick it in. Always over the tree too, it's everywhere. And then if you want to dab with your brush, let me get the bigger one. Because you don't want to just leave it one blade sticking there. So I'm loading up my brush with both colors and kind of just, oop, that's too much brown. Let me wash and dry it a little bit. I want it to be pretty kind of dry. There. Just kind of dab. I'll go slow so you can see how I do it. Just kind of, I'm hitting brown, green, dab, 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 dab on the bottom edge. I just kind of mute it and blend it in. Kind of flicks it in there, just to make it look more natural. If I just left it these sticks here, it looks artificial. Okay, so there's the bottom edge. This watery edge needs a little fixing too. So if I can get some little bit of brown, a little bit of green, blue rather, and I'm going to dilute this a little bit on my paper towel here. I just want some, like, some little waterline color kind of coming in through here. I don't want that much though. Anytime you don't like it, remember, mute it. There, this just gives some watery lines in here. Ooh, I want that color back. And then mute it. Now I'm going to put on a little bit of leaves in the trees here, but not too much. I'm just going to kind of dab it, and then I'm using some blue-green, and now I'm dipping into some, let me move my pinks down here so you can see how I dip. I'm dipping into some regular green, and I kind of want a fluffier version of this. Let me switch brushes here. I don't really care for that one. I'm going to, I don't want this to be too watery, and I'm just kind of dabbing. And when you do, I don't like that either. And when you do trees, you don't want a big blob like that. You want little areas of color. I will go back to this and just dab. Light, airy, and slowly work up, because you don't want to get rid, that's harder to get rid of, that big blob there. So I'm slowly working up little dabs of color here. And this is just a fan brush. And actually, the yuckier the fan brush is, if it's all sprayed out like that, the better, because then you get more openness. And I don't want this to be real bright green, because this is in the distance. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of smash that fan brush. Even sponge dabbing, this is easy too. And don't overdo the tree area. You want to be able to see some of the branches showing through. And what kids tend to do is they tend to make a blob, a solid blob, and you don't want that. I'm just doing it basically on the top up here, not too much down here or here. This is just the bottom edges of your plants, of your trees, so we don't see a lot of, see, I want to be able to see, we don't see a lot of the tops of the trees. So this is mainly just the trunks here. And what I want to do now is, you want to be able to see the pink skies and your beautiful skies, blue skies, whatever color you have, behind the trees. So a little bit just to hint that, hey, this is leaves. Make it so it's not, I'm going back into my blues now, making sure it's not too bright, because it's almost like a silhouette, so dark, because it is sunset. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of that Spanish moss coming down on the trees, and this really makes it that old southern Florida feel. So I'm going to use some of this blue, and you're almost mixing like a green gray. I'm going to put a little bit of this green in, and a tad of brown, if I can find my, here's some of this. I just wet that a little bit. I'm bringing the brown back into the blue. I don't want it to be too dark. I'm going to test here. Now the Spanish moss comes off of these trees. Dab, 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 really tiny. And then press your brush a few times up at the top. Now that is a little bit too dark. So I want to gray it up a little bit. Let me get some white. So I'm stirring into the white, and then I'm going to go back into my green, my blue, brown, blue, yeah, that's a good gray, and dab in between the two dark, where it's real dark, and then it just ends like little drips right here, and then come on down. You want to start off a little dark, dab, dab, up on the tree, dab, 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 drip, and it gets a little bit wider up in here, and then get your white back, dab, dab, dab. A little bit white on top. Bring some brown in, kind of muddy it up a little with the brown. You don't, these are the shadows. So it's just little drips. Actually, the moss does look pretty, but when it's in my yard, I don't like it. Because it has bugs and stuff in it. And then when you pull it, all this little flaky junk comes off on it. I'm gonna do a little bit more brown over here. That's a little bit too greenish. And then drip them. You don't want them all the same size. Mine are pretty much all the same size right here. So I'm gonna do some dripping coming down here, just real short. And this can be pretty dark, this one, because this is like just like a silhouette. They all need to be pretty much silhouettes almost, because it's so far away. But I wanted a little bit of contrast from the trees. Dripping down. And then you can do some over here. Even if you have to add a little bit more horizontal branch to create your drips, because they come off of horizontal branches. You want to show the nice drips coming down. And then I'll get some tiny ones right here. Tiny dots, and then it gets thicker as it reaches the branch. And let me put a little blue on top of that. Dabbing. And it's real tiny, even if you have to switch brushes to get it real small. Now I'm having it come up over the branch a little bit here. And then have some more dripping over in here. Dab. And then tiny. And there you have your Spanish moss dripping down on your cypress trees. Very easy. And again, I do this with grade 2 kids. So they're about 8 years old, and they come out real cute. We also put in, right in here, if you want to put a little silhouette of a bird, a water bird, you can. That comes out fun. I'm just going to take some of my blue and brown, and we start off with a really thin beak, just like this. That's about 2.5 fingers up from here, because they're in the shore. And then press, mixing a little bit of blue with brown. And then I'm having my neck, and then I curve around. So little slight curve, curve, beautiful curve. And then we just bring it over and curve. Filling this in. There's a lot of water birds. That's why I loved it when I moved to Florida. Oh, I used to take environmental science when I was in college, and man, I just went crazy with all this wildlife here. It was amazing. And one little leg coming down, and if you want to make another one right here crossing, you can. So it's just basically a few strokes for your birds. And you want to give them. Now, this is bad, what I did here. This ends, so try not to have it near these knots, these tree, oh gosh, I'm brain dead now. These things, these tree legs or whatever these are called. I forgot what those are called now. It's early morning right now, because you don't have little room for your tails here, but you get the idea. If you want to put a little tail on. What happens is when this ends where this ends, it's not good. So what I'm going to have to do And if you're in the same boat as I am, I'm going to show you how to fix this. I'm going to make this knot just darker. This knot has to come in the foreground. The bird is behind, it's in the middle ground, mid to foreground, but these knots are closer to me. So right now they're on top, you don't see any difference. So if you're in that same boat as me, I didn't do enough planning on the bird. It was kind of an impromptu. This needs to come forward, so I'm going to show you how to fix something like this. You never want two things laying and ending in the same place. Cypress knees, that's what they were called, cypress knees. So what you do is, I need to change the height of this then. I'm just making this knee a little bit higher to help with that composition. So the bird's in the back. And this is totally how you fix something. And a lot of kids, when they have a problem like this is when they start to shut down. They won't, oh, I made a huge mistake, I can't go, blah, blah, blah. No, you just fix it. Think of how you can fix it. So I'm just gonna make this higher and darker. So I went in with some of my black that I usually stay away from. And this one ends at that bird too. I should have put it way over here. I just wasn't thinking. It's early in the morning. I'm going to darken up this as well to help my composition. And you see how those two little teeny tiny changes, let me see if you can show you, help that already. It fixes that bird problem. And actually now I have a lot of depth, things that are overlapping each other. Now if I want to bring some darker on the shadow here, now that I have that out, I can put a little dark on here. This is on the top of it, so this is behind it, so that's fine. But I can darken up some of this and give some darker, I don't quite like that in there. So, pure water, get rid of it. There, it's too dark. Okay, if you want to put a little baby friend in, that's fine. Right now we see a lot of babies out there. And that's basically how we did some simple cypress landscapes. And again, this was the tempera cakes. It's not optimal material to work with something like this. You know, watercolors would be great too. But like I said in my classroom, these go a long way, and so that's why I use the tempera cakes. But same processes, procedures, no matter what materials you're using. You can create paintings out of acrylics. You can do this in an oil. Any material, but it's how you layer the colors and put on the paint. That's what's the beauty of this. I love the way this is drying. That's really, really pretty here. And there's my little bird. Now that's a makeup bird. I don't know what bird that would be. But I hope you enjoyed the video and learned a little bit about painting.